دين الإسلام ديني والعرض بغير ديني محمد.
Welcome back from that beautiful recitation of Surah Yasin. Many people might be wondering, why does ITV continue or keep on bringing Surah Yasin every morning? Of course, Surah Yasin is one of those glorified verses in the Holy Quran. And of course, Mishari Al-Fasi has that very, very beautiful voice in reciting Surah Yasin. Let's now have a quick look at the day's morning inspirational talk. And of course, the talk is brought to you by Brother Yawar Baig.
Inna alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. My brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to remind myself and you about the incident when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam received the first wahi, when he met Jibreel alayhi salam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the first revelation, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came down from Ghar Hira to his wife, Sayyidatuna Khadija radiallahu anha. And he said to her, Zammiluni, Zammiluni, cover me up, cover me up. He was shivering because this was the first time that this was a meeting between two different forms of life, between an angel and a human being. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came down and he said this to her, think of what the response of Khadija radiallahu anha was. She said that your Rabb will not destroy you because you are kind to the people, to the poor. You are generous to the guest, and you help those people who are in difficulty and who need help. Three things that she talked about. She did not talk about his ibadah. She did not talk about his dhikr. She did not talk about anything. She spoke about three things, all of which have to do with huququl ibad. I ask myself today, how much of my life is focused on huququl ibad? And if huququl ibad was so important, how come that I seem to have forgotten huququl ibad? I invite you to ask yourself this question, my brothers and sisters, because today this is the biggest problem of the Muslims. We are very good at talking about Islam, but may Allah forgive us, we are very poor about presenting Islam. And remember, the other person who is looking at us is not looking at our aqidah, he is not looking at our ibadat, because our aqidah is inside our heart, our ibadat are inside our masajid or in our homes. What the person is seeing is our akhlaq. He's seeing our manners. What he's seeing is our mu'amilat. What he's seeing is how we deal with people. What he's seeing is the mu'ashara of the Muslims. What he's seeing is the culture of the Muslims. What do we present to the world? When we present our akhlaq, what do we present to the world? And our akhlaq, remember, every single thing we say or do is a representation of what Islam means, because the world sees us as Muslims. Today many of us complain and they say, why do people blame Islam when a Muslim does something wrong? But think about this. You know what the Sahaba used to say? When people said, what is Islam? They used to say, become like us. They used to say, become like us, right? Now, what was the issue of that? They were saying that we are the representatives of Islam, so become like us. Now, can we say that today? So if somebody is, within quotes, blaming Islam because they look at me and they say, here is this man, it is not Yawar Baig, it is Islam. And I say, well, why do you do that? You know, seriously speaking, I must say, well, it's a very good thing they do that. So how can I live my life in such a way that whenever they look at Yawar Baig, they are seeing the actual reality of Islam, which is a beautiful reality. And that is the point I want to make today, that our akhlaq, what do we present to the world, is our akhlaq, is our manners. But let's stick just with akhlaq. What our manners? How do we treat our parents as children? How do the parents treat the children? How do we treat our teachers when we go to school? How do the teachers treat the students? How do we treat our employees who work for us, whether in our homes or in our businesses? How do we as employees treat our business and our work? One of the great ulama of India, Sayyid Sulaiman Nadwi rahmatullah alayh, used to carry two fountain pens. This was the day before ball pens. Two fountain pens, one which he used for his official work and one which he used for his personal work. He even kept the ink that he used to use for his personal work separate from the ink that was used for his official work. People were so careful with regard to their own akhlaq, and that is the standard that they set for themselves. Maulana Qasim Nanotwi Rahmatullah Alayh, who was the founder of Darul Uloom Deoband, used to get a salary of 2.5 rupees a month. He used to send 1 rupee of that to Aligarh, to his mother where she lived. When his mother passed away, he sent a letter to Darul Uloom Deoband and said, my salary may please be reduced by 1 rupee, because 1.5 rupees is sufficient for me. That 1 rupee which I used to send to my mother is no longer necessary. We are talking about our akabirin. We are talking about people who we see as akabirin. What was their level? What was their standard? What is our standard today? We feel free to use the employer's time. We feel free to use the employer's resources for our own personal benefit without any shame. Now, this is not how Muslims live. This is not how Muslims behave. And that is the thing I remind myself, is our akhlaq. What are our akhlaq? And that is something that I remind myself to constantly look at, because our akhlaq is the window of the world to what is Islam. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajmain bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahim.
MashaAllah, what a brilliant speaker Yawar Baig is. And of course, without spiritual talks of that nature, our hearts and our imans will be empty. Let's now have a look at the day's sporting activities. Of course, these sporting activities are brought to us courtesy of Professor Solly Said.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to Solly Said's Karate, Kickboxing and Gym, your one-stop, multi-purpose health, fitness and martial arts center. Today we're going to continue with the dispelling of the myth that karate is only for special people. You need to be in a certain fitness level. You need to have, you need to be a certain age. Karate is for everyone between the ages of 5 years to 85 years. I've seen karate masters in their late 80s in Japan and Okinawa practicing karate with such vigor, energy, and amazing composure that it just makes you wonder that a lifetime of karate training can do such amazing things for people and their health. Some of the greatest, the longest living human beings on earth live in Japan, Okinawa. Live, you know, what we call octogenarians, septuagenarians. We find them in Japan and Okinawa. So today I want to discuss the four Ks of karate. Kihon, which is your basic karate, basics of karate, everything that you do with basics. Basics is the foundation of our training. That is something that you'll do for the rest of your life when you start doing karate. So initially when a person starts and joins the dojo, they find the complicated coordination movements very difficult to be able to do initially. But with time and practice and staying the course, as we call it, one slowly learns to master these techniques. So in the basic section, we have several different areas that we cover. We have to cover what we call the important thing is tachi, nigiri, ski, sannen. Tachi, nigiri, ski, sannen. Tachi means stance, tachis, strong stance, whether it's sanshin dachi, zengsu dachi, or kiba dachis, or even shiko dachi. These stances are a part of karate to develop strong legs, strong basic base area. So, tachi, nigiri, ski, sannen. Nigiri means the correct way to form a fist, to make a correct fist. That's nigiri. Ski means to punch, suki, how to punch. So, sannen means 3 years. So the old karate saying, tachi, Nigiri, ski, Sannen means it takes 3 years to master the stances. It takes 3 years to master just the making of the fist correctly, and it takes another 3 years to master how to punch. So altogether, it takes 9 years to master just the punch. It takes a lifetime almost, you see. So that's why we say 10 years on a rock. As I explained once, one of my karate masters would love to say 10 years on a rock and left you just there. So here we are. This gradual practice, the progression and continuous practice of karate, the daily practice can make you an efficient martial artist. But it takes time. So today, as I said, we're covering the Kihon. So Kihon covers those aspects. Then we got kata. Kata is called the heart of karate. I know people have had different views about kata. You had people like Bruce Lee say, kata is vertical death. Actually, it's quite a misnomer. It doesn't explain anything about kata. Kata is such a beautiful part of karate. It actually is the aesthetic side of karate. This is the side that makes karate look exceptional by watching the person perform these movements. Now, hidden in these very movements that you see in kata, which we'll show you later, are the secret techniques that can actually attack nerves and attack joints, and they can actually break a person into half by just using the correct form of karate. So the part of kata we call bunkai actually means the application of each movement. So every movement that you see that looks so simple, maybe sometimes complicated or even complex, but at the same time they don't look so dangerous, are techniques that can actually kill somebody, right? So that's the kata side that we will cover as well. And then we've got kumite. Kumite, chu kumite, randori kumite, different forms of kumite that we talk about. This is the fighting aspect. This is where you actually take your basics, you take your kata, and you put it into application form in terms of fighting, where you actually apply it in a fighting situation. That we'll come to, and I'll explain it in more detail when we get to the kumite side of things. The fourth aspect, the fourth K, so Kihon, kata, kumite, and the fourth K is kobudo. Kobudo is the weapon side of karate. Now, the big question always arises, if you say karate means empty hand, where does this weapon side come in? In ancient times, karate masters used to also practice with a long stick, the long staff, called the bow, or in Okinawa, the kon. Or they used to use farming implements, which I'll show at some point. Different things like the fork, is to use the tonfa, rice grinding implement, and short sticks. And of course, if you studied in Japan and practiced with certain karate masters, you also learn kendo, which is the art of the sword, okay, sword fighting. So we'll go through these aspects in a very basic way, just to make it, to give you an idea that, anyone can practice karate, provided you have the desire to want to study karate. If you have the desire to want to study karate, yes, anyone can learn karate. It is, we call it an art that, because it has to be practiced. You don't have to have any special skills. You do not need any flair for karate. You just start practicing, and with practice on a daily basis, which we call keiko. Keiko means train. You slowly master these techniques. So we're going to go through the basics again today, but we're going to take it to the next level, where we're going to do movements in different stances, okay? So we give you an idea of how the basics go. So we're going to use our Sensei Bethuel, a long-time standing karateka. He's a fourth dan. He's actually going to be tested for his fifth dan in a few months' time. Sensei Andy, as you all met before, you met him before, and Sensei Zenit, Our 4 senses are here today. Let us see how we're going to go through these basic techniques. Please stand up, senseis. Right. Why are you sitting there? Right. Okay. Right. Stand up. Okay. As you can see, the sitting position in Seiza is not an easy position, but we're going to start now with some of the basics, right? So everybody, hey, right? Right. Hey, yo, So we did Sanshin Dachi. I showed you the punch in Sanshin Dachi the last time. So let's just show that movement quickly. Sanshin Dachi, kamaite. Yeah. Right, stretch your hands out in front of you. Pull your right hand in and show us the punch. Ichi, ni, san, chi. Now faster. Ich, ni, san, chi, go. That was the punch we showed. We showed the hurricane, the back first strike. Ich, ni, san, chi, and go. Right. Then we show the block, Choranuki block. Ichi, ni, san, chi. Right. Okay, then we also show the outside block. Ichi, ni, san, chi, and now re. So that's what we did in the last episode. Now, in the next episode, we're going to be doing the next stage where we're going to take the movements into actual motion and movement, okay? Sometimes karate is called, well, most times karate is called moving Zen. So you'll see how Zen, the practice of meditation and Zen, comes into motion. So we're going to show that in the next section.
MashaAllah, welcome back. I hope you've learned a thing or two regarding sporting. And now it's time for news, read to you by ITV's Nafisa Dango.
دين الإسلام ديني والعرض غير ديني محمد